Do you want to get into IT? Do you want to become a web developer? Then Ruby on Rails just might be what you need. It is a trending technology which is used by a lot of developers, making web application development super easy. So, do you want to learn Ruby on Rails and start developing apps quickly? Then get on board. Welcome to OdinSchool. We are going to take you through a few tutorials on Ruby on Rails where we teach you everything from the basics along with how to develop your own app. Ruby on Rails is a trending web technology used to create several web applications. It has wide range of applications starting from e-commerce to finance to cloud, and in fact several startups use it. Due to the increased demand, more job openings are constantly coming up in this field. This course is designed to help you meet all of those industry standards that you would require to qualify for a job and Ruby on Rails. This course will take you with how to get started with Ruby on Rails, scaffolding, action view, controller, active record, and moving to the launch of various web developments. Once you complete this tutorial on Ruby on Rails, you will not only be able to create your own app but also add features to it. You'll be able to understand the complete workflow of Rails applications and MVC. Also, you'll be able to use your own version control tools. So guys, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel OdinSchool for many more such videos, and please watch the full tutorial of Ruby on Rails by clicking the link below.
Hello everyone, welcome to Ruby on Rails course. In this video, we are going to talk about getting started with Rails. So before getting into the technology, I want to give you the background of this technology called Ruby on Rails. Ruby on Rails is one of the open source framework. It is also called as full stack framework. It is used to create web applications. In earlier days, we have used lots of websites, which is the static content, but right now we are using lots of web application and mobile application. Web applications are much interactive comparing with websites. So Ruby on Rails is one of the framework which is used to create your web applications. So it is working according to the model, view and controller pattern, that is called MVC. So before getting into the training, so let me introduce myself. I am Krishnaveni, having 14 years of experience in this web development and software development and training. So in this video, we are going to learn to install Rails, to create your first Rails application, to create the first Hello Rails WorldWith page, the first Rails page, and to learn about the directory layout and to explore MVC concept. So before getting into the video, I suggest you to subscribe to our channel to get the latest video playlist and live expert sessions and much more resources. Like the video, watch the video and share it with your friends. Make use of all the available resources. First of all, let us talk about the Rails installation. So Rails installation is nothing but you need to have the following tools and technologies installed if you want to use Ruby. So this is for Windows based framework. So for each and every operating system, the installation instructions will be different. So if you are using Ruby on Rails in Windows platform, you need to download those things separately. So if you are going for Mac OS or something, the installation instructions will be different. And if you are going for Ubuntu and some other softwares also, the installation instructions will be different. So let us see where we can find these instructions. So while you are working online, you can able to take these instructions from the Rails websites itself. So Ruby on Rails installation is available for multiple programming languages and multiple platforms and multiple others OS also. So you can take the installation instructions from the official website guides.rubyonrails.org. Okay, so if you are using, this is the official website we are going to refer, and whenever you are using this kind of very basics Ruby on Rails course while you are learning online, I suggest you to read this page as well. So they will be having updates and all the topics will be included in this particular official website. So how they can able to install this Ruby on Rails, how you can able to do that, you can follow the instruction here and you can able to download it according to your install whatever the operating system you are using or whatever the platform you are using. So right now I am going to show you how you can do that with Windows platform. So because all the learners, new programmers, students like you will be having this Windows environment. Some may have this Mac OS environment. Some people prefer Ubuntu environment. Okay. So here I'm just going to give you the idea how to do that with Windows framework, Windows operating system. So first of all, you need to download Ruby. So whenever you are learning Ruby itself, you can able to, I think you already downloaded Ruby, you can skip it. If you are not downloaded a Ruby, I suggest you to visit this Ruby page. So just give Ruby installer. Lots of installers are available for Ruby. So that Ruby installer is just a one-click installer. You can get it from the internet. Ruby installer for Windows. So when you visit this page, you can able to get the latest versions over here and you can download it, and it's a single one-click installer. So you can able to install it in a single click. After installing, open the command prompt, okay, and check Ruby -v. So it will give you what is the Ruby version that has been installed in your machine. Okay, so just download it from here. Once you have finished the download, you just open your command prompt and give Ruby -v. It will give you the corresponding version you are using in your machine. That means which get downloaded in your machine, it will give you the version. The next thing, we need to install Rails. So Ruby is a different one, Rails is a different one. Ruby is a programming language, Rails is the framework. So you need to install it one by one. The second one, you need to install Rails. Okay, before getting into that Rails installation, I just want to give you an idea. What do you mean by Ruby in real time? So Ruby means programming language, I accept that. But whenever you are calling Ruby, that is one of the precious stone we will be using in our ornaments. For example, it's a red color stone. So you may know that. So that red color stone is called Ruby, which is used in your ornaments. So we will be having 9 different kinds of Ruby gems, right? Not only Ruby, 9 different kinds of gems. Ruby, pearl, diamond, emerald, something like that. Okay. So it will be called as Navratna. Navratna means 9 different kinds of Ruby gems. Okay. So one of the gem is Ruby. Okay. So what is the term we need to learn from here? Ruby is one of the gem. So there are different gems available, 9 different kinds of gem. Ruby is one of the gem we are using. So gems means that is one of the stone we are using in our ornaments. So why have they have used this Ruby for naming this one? So to denote the gem, they are using this name Ruby. Okay. Anyway, so why we are taking this gem? How this term gems will be used hereafter? All the Ruby packages. So hereafter, whenever you want to suggest or whenever you want to use any Ruby packages, those Ruby packages will be called as gems. Ruby libraries, Ruby packages, everything will be called as Ruby gems hereafter. Remember that, okay? Whatever the files, whatever the package you are using, they will be called as Ruby gems, okay? So Rails framework is written in Ruby, okay? Rails framework is written with Ruby programming language. So Rails is also one of the Ruby gem we are going to use because it's a set of library. So we are calling it as Ruby package or Ruby gem. So that's why Rails is also called as Ruby gem. Okay, you need to install that before you want to use that. So how you can use that? Very simple. Open your command prompt and give gem install Rails. Okay, gem install is a common name, common command. Gem install. You can have any Ruby gem. Right now we are going to use Rails. In future, if you are using any other gem like SQL or something, you can give something like that. Gem install SQL, gem install MySQL, something like that. You can give the gem name. Okay. As of now, we are going to use the gem called Rails. So gem install Rails. That is the name of that particular Ruby gem. Okay, so when you give that, that will take a very lengthy process like this. For example, then why I am showing you this means, install, right? So why I am showing you this means I already have that in my local system. So if it's taking, if I am downloading again, it will take some time. So that's why I'm just going to show you how it will take. So whenever you are trying to install any gem, it will take some lengthy process in your command prompt like this. Okay, maybe 2 to 3 minutes of your time based on the connectivity internet speed. It will take 2 to 3 minutes of your time and it will be loading. So it will take some very lengthy process like this. Okay, and it will tell you finally nearly 37 gems get installed, otherwise 47 gems get installed. According to your local connectivity, it will tell you a few set of gems has been installed. Okay, so like that you can able to see how many gems got installed. So it will take a very lengthy process like this when you use gem install rights. Okay, in your command prompt it will take some lengthy process like this, and it will be giving you that 27 set of gems installed, something like that. It will tell you the message. Once the installation is done, it will give you that message. So once you are looking at that message, you can able to understand the Ruby on Rails gems got installed properly. So how you can know, how you can understand it got installed properly means, open your, after installing this command, open your command prompt and just give rail space -v. So once you have given this rail space -v, it will give you the Rails version which got downloaded in your machine. So when you run this Rails -v or Rails -v, it will give you the version of your Rails application which installed in your machine locally. So for Ruby, the version is 2.5.7. For Rails, the version is 6.0.2.2. Okay, so how it will take the lengthy process means here it is. So like this, it will take the gems one by one. Okay, and finally it will give you 27 set of gems installed, something like this. Okay, so 27 set of gems installed, something like that. It will go for 2 to 3 minutes of your time, and finally you can able to run this one Rails space v. So when you use this one, it will give you the version of Rails that has been installed. You may wonder, Ruby version is different, Rails version is different. How we can able to check these kind of version? So as I mentioned you already, when you're seeing the downloads, so lots of Ruby earlier versions are also there. Okay, so you can prefer any one version from your Ruby, some latest version. Remember, always don't go with the latest version. This is because some latest versions will be having updates and debug fixings, everything will be there. So I suggest you to go for some earlier version. Never go with the latest version. Okay, always n-1, something like that. Have that idea. If it's 2.7, go with 2.6, something like that. Okay, and for Rails, there are some versions available. You can take the Rails versions from this particular website. So the latest Rails version is this Rails 6. We are in the Rails 6. Earlier versions are starting from 1.8. Nearly Rails was released in 2004. Okay, so there are nearly more than 300 versions of Rails are there. You can use any one of the version, but our version is 6.0, which is the latest one. Very latest version is, I think, Rails 6 is the very latest version. If you are going for Rails 5, Rails 4, Rails 3, Rails 2, all the earlier versions also available. So totally 376 versions are available since July 25, 2009. So like that they have given. The latest version is 0.3.2, which is very latest one. Nearly 1 month back they have released. Okay, anyway. So sometimes if you want to go back with the earlier versions also, you can use that. So I use this 6.0 2.2, that is this one. Okay, not using the latest version, some latest version back that has been released in 3-4 months back time. Okay, so why I am suggesting not to go with the latest version means all the versions will be having updates and they will be keep on releasing new versions. So I suggest you to go for some earlier version. That would be good. Okay, so in Ruby we are using 2.5 point something. Okay, and Rails we are using 6.0.2.2. Okay, in my machine I have used this one. In your machine, if you want to go with some latest version also, no problem, go ahead and download that. Okay, my preference is Ruby 2.5.7 and Rails 6.0.2.2. Okay, so these versions will work together and it will give you the corresponding stable versions of Ruby and then Rails. Okay, so the installation is very simple. You need to install Ruby first, then you need to install the Rails. That's it. So once you have installed these two things, Ruby and Rails, check the corresponding versions. If you are getting this Ruby-V and Rails-V with proper inputs, proper outputs, you are made the installation successful. And two more things we need to do that with the installation. A web server, and we need a database to store our backend database. But thanks to Rails, this web server is inbuilt in Rails application itself. As I already told you, it's a full stack framework. It comes with the web server by default. Okay, so for example, Webrick, okay, Puma. So these kind of web servers are available in Rails by default. The latest versions of Rails 6 is having inbuilt web server called Puma. Okay, so that Puma is the inbuilt web server that comes with Rails by default. So you don't need to install any other web servers. And we need a database system. So Rails can be used with any backend database. It's coming with SQLite 3 by default. Okay, SQLite 3 is the inbuilt database which comes with Rails by default. If you want to use SQLite 3, you can use it, or you can able to you can able to choose any other databases as well. You can use MySQL, you can use Postgres, any other database. So in this tutorial, we are going to use SQLite 3. Okay. And finally, we need to use text editor. Text editor means you can use any other text editor like gedit or Notepad++, AutoMedit, Komodo Edit, like that. Lots of tools are there, but most of the companies will prefer RubyMine. So I already talked about this in this Ruby video. Anyway, I am repeating. RubyMine is one of the IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So it's like a complete editor which will give you the idea of IDE, Integrated Development Environment, where you can download from the internet. Why I am suggesting you to use this one means most of the companies all around the world will be using this RubyMine IDE. Okay, they will be having the standard licensed version. For developer, it will be available for 30 days trial period of time. Okay, if you are going for companies, it will be available under the licensed version. So they will be using this Ruby on Rails IDE to edit their code. Okay, so if you want to do the same kind of things while you are learning Ruby on Rails, I suggest to you to use Sublime Text 2. So the Sublime Text 2 will be available as a free open source. Anyone can download that. This Sublime Text 2 is somewhat similar to RubyMine. RubyMine is a IDE for Ruby on Rails coding. So you can able to use multiple files at the same time. It will be having the autocomplete syntax. Like that, it is having lots of other important features as well. That's why I prefer RubyMine. So if you want to download this one and use it for a trial version also, you can use it. But if you're going for office environment or work environment, definitely they will be using this RubyMine IDE. So for learning purpose, I suggest you to go with this particular Sublime Text 2 or Sublime Text 3. So this Sublime will be having the similar features of RubyMine or some other editor. So you can able to use multiple files at the same time. You can able to have this kind of colored outputs, and you will have autocomplete option. Lots of other features also available. Okay, for learning purpose, I suggest you to go with Sublime Text 2. Okay, sometimes this RubyMine will be available in the 30-day free trial. You can try this also. Okay, so whenever you are learning, try this also. If you have licensed version, you can use that as well. Okay, so this is the editor we need. That's it. So these are the 5 things we need to do with the Rails installation part. First, you need to download Ruby. Next one, you need to download gem install Rails, and web server and database systems comes with Rails by default. So you can simply omit that. And finally, text editor. I prefer Sublime Text 2 for learning purpose. If you are going for a work environment, you can use RubyMine, Atom or gedit or Notepad++, any one editor. Okay. So that's it about the Rails installation part. Very, very important. Before if you are going to work with Ruby on Rails coding, make sure you have installed Ruby and Rails in your local machine. Then only you can able to proceed with the programming, or you can able to create the Rails applications. Okay. After this installation, let us get into the Ruby programming overview, because this Ruby and Rails platforms are different. You need to know which will be what are the golden rules behind this one. We already talked about why we are going for Rails, but what are the golden rules behind this one? Otherwise, what are the basic philosophy behind this framework? That is very important. So before getting into the technical part, that means coding part, I just want to give you few more ideas about the Rails framework. So Ruby is the programming language that is used to manipulate this particular Rails framework. So Rails framework is written in Ruby programming language. So the golden rules behind this Rails framework is, first one is convention over configuration. That is nothing but COC. So we will be calling it as COC, convention over configuration. So the configuration part is much simple, or it's very easy comparing with other programming languages. If you are going for any other programming languages or any other framework, the developer need to spend lot of time on the basic initial setup part, otherwise the configuration part. This configuration will come under a single folder in your Ruby Rails coding. So you don't need to create any files. All the configurations will come under single folder, and lots of predefined middleware front end and back end tools and configurations are already available within the Rails framework itself. So you don't need to create any single configuration files. So that will make your configuration much simpler. You can able to make convenient approach over your configuration. So you will be spending very less time on the setup, and you can able to start your application very quickly. So that is the point, convention over each and every configuration you are doing. Okay. And next one is don't repeat yourself. Before showing that, I want to show you how the configurations are set up in Rails. So whenever you are having any Rails application, so let me show you some Rails application quickly. So if you are creating any Rails application, it will be look like this. So for example, if you are creating any Rails application, the directory layout will be looking like this. All the configuration will come under a single folder. You can be able to see that. So all the configuration files, whatever the configuration files you needed for to develop your web application and set up everything will be come under one file. So like this, all the configuration part is much simple, and the developer need to spend less time on the configuration part. That's why it's very simple to use this particular configuration under this Rails part. And second one is don't repeat yourself. That means don't repeat your code. Try to reuse your code. Don't repeat your code means you need to reuse your code. If you are repeating the code again and again in multiple places, if you want to do one changes in one file, you need to do the same changes in lots of files. So that part is called repeating your code. For example, if you are taking any HTML page, let me show you one quick example. This particular templates. So if you are going for any designers or any other files, designer files, so you will be having this particular HTML files, HTML design files. So you will be having lots of HTML files. If you are opening any file, you need to have this document type HTML tags repeated in all the files for getting repeated. So you can see that this document type. Okay. So these kind of files will getting repeated in all the files. So if I have 10 HTML files as well, let me open another HTML. So that tags will get repeated. Okay, this is called repetition of code. So for example, I'm telling you, okay. So if you're putting the same lines of code again in multiple places, suppose if you want to change any one line of code, you need to do the changes in all the files where you are repeating the code. So that should not be the case with Rails. Rails will never support this don't repeat, to repeat your code. It's using the concept called don't repeat your code. You may wonder how we can avoid this. So you can reuse your code. Reusing means you need to put the code in a single place and you need to call it whenever it is necessary. Okay, so you need to put it in a common file or common place. You need to call it wherever necessary. If you are doing so, the basic code will be in one place. If you are doing changes, the one in the same center file, you can able to do the changes. Other files will get called the same code. So it will never get affected and you don't need to repeat the same code again in multiple places. So Rails never allows you to repeat your code. Okay, they are asking you to reuse your code. That is the main idea. Okay, reuse the code. So once you are starting to reuse, you will be writing very simple scripts that can be used in multiple places. So whenever you are using this code reusability, you will be writing very less number of lines of code. That is the main idea behind this Rails framework. And third one is Rails is opinionated framework. That means you can customize this Rails framework according to your need. There is no strict constraints or rules to follow. Okay, it's easily customizable. That's why they are telling it's a opinionated framework. Okay, so the convention over configuration and don't repeat yourself is a very important two aspects of this golden rules of Rails. So whenever you are attending any Rails interview or Ruby interview, anything, this question will get repeated. So why you are going for Rails? What are the golden rules behind this? So at the time you need to explain this convention over configuration and this don't repeat yourself, and maybe Rails is opinionated framework. Very important aspects. Okay, make a note on this one. So next one, we need to talk about how to create your Rails application. Whatever we have talked up to now is just a basics overview of Rails theoretical part. Okay, so we need to create our first Rails application and we need to know how to run it and how to see the output on the code. Okay, so first, whenever you want to create your first Rails application, make sure you have installed and using Ruby and Rails properly. Okay, so now let us create the first Rails application. For that, you need to use the following command. Hereafter, for creating new application or new files or anything, we are going to use command prompt. So you need to note about that. So we are going to create new Rails application right now. So just open your command prompt. Remember, whenever you are learning something, keep a separate track for adding your files or adding your Rails application or creating your Rails application. Okay, never get into the core folders. Okay, you just have a separate location for that. So here in this particular, I have a CD Rails. I have a separate location called Rails projects. Okay, let us take this Ruby projects then. Okay, so in this you can use this command Rails new app name. So let us take Rails new gray campus. Okay, so like that you need to use this command Rails new. Rails new is a common command. Gray campus is the app name. So you can use any other app name too. Okay, you can use my app, first app, something like that. But here for time purpose, I am using this Rails new gray campus. So whenever you are using this particular command, you can see now it's taking a very lengthy procedure, right? So it will create all the necessary files and folders of your Rails project, otherwise Rails application. So it will take some time, maybe based on the speed of your machine, it will take just some 30 to 1 minute of 30 seconds to 1 minute of your time. It's okay. So now you can see, as I mentioned you, it's a very lengthy process. After creating all the necessary files and folders, Rails will add these kind of necessary files and folders, configuration, everything on its own. So you don't need to worry about that. So that application with necessary files and folder structure will get created. So let this get complete. Before that, let us talk about this directory layout of your Rails application. So once you have run this Rails new app name, it will create the necessary directory layout on its own. How many applications you are creating, Rails will create the same directory layout by one by one. So let us get into that layout and see how things are coming up. So let us get into the app we have just now created. So it's in D drive. I think it's under Ruby projects. Okay. So under Ruby projects we have created called Gray Campus. Okay. Let me check 1 minute. So we have created in the name. Oh, sorry. In Ruby scripts I have created that. Okay. Anyway. Ruby scripts. Yeah. So here under Gray Campus you can see the directory layout which has been created. So this is the default layout. You don't need to create anything. Whenever you are running the single command Rails new app name, this directory layout will be created automatically. So the first one is called app folder. So this app folder is the main folder of this Rails application. Very important one. What it will do means it will be having the basic necessary files called front end, back end, and then middleman. That means model view controller. So we already talked that this particular Ruby on Rails framework is using model view controller, MVC concept, right? So those MVC files are available here. I will talk about the MVC later in the session, but right now you just understand Rails is having this model view controller files over here. So model means that is the backend files that will go here. Controller means that is the middleman where you are writing your business logic will go here. And views means nothing but the HTML pages HTML pages you are seeing in your browser. Those pages will come here. So app folder is the important folder of your Rails application directory layout, which will be having the models, views, and controller files. These are the very main important files of Rails application. After this MVC, okay, it will have other important files too. That is called assets. Okay, apart from these MVC files, it will be having assets. Assets means nothing but the front end tools. That is, whenever you are designing a particular HTML page or template, you will be having images, JavaScript, and style sheets too. So in these kind of images, JavaScript, and style sheets can be put into this particular app assets folder. Okay. And channels, if you want to use any background work at the time, you can use that. As of now, we are not going to use this one anymore. So just to have an idea. And helpers, if you are using any conversion code, for example, you are converting dollars into some other Indian rupees or Singapore dollars or something like that, you can able to use some conversion program, right? At the time, you can use this particular helpers to help the code. So these helpers are available to take part in the code. It will do some kind of coding, but it is not the part of MVC. Okay, it will provide some helping in the coding. Okay, and next one is JavaScript. If you are using any JavaScript libraries, third-party JavaScript tools like React or Ember or any other Angular or anything, you can be able to use this JavaScript folder. As of now, it is available here. And jobs. So if you want to use any repeated jobs or cron based jobs, otherwise background jobs, you can be able to run it. You may wonder what are they? They are nothing but doing extra work apart from your MVC. So those kind of jobs can be if you are using any jobs to perform something periodically, you can be able to use this folder to support that code. And mailer. For example, whenever you are signing up for any new account on any new website, you will be getting welcome emails. So they will be sending their products and updates periodically to your email. For example, you're going for any e-commerce application site means they will be sending you welcome email. After that, they will be sending you their product list. If there is any offers or any updates available, they will be sending you periodical emails. Do you think someone is sitting in the back and sending these mails? No, they are automated emails. So those kind of mailers and the emailing system can be done from the mailer folder. As of now, have this idea. Later we can talk about these things in detail. Okay. Mailer is used to send emails from your application. And models views I already explained. So this app folder is having the important folder of your Rails applications. Okay. Next one is bin folder, otherwise binary folder. So this folder will be having the executable commands. So we have already used Rails, right? Rails new app name. Similar to that, bundle, rake, few more commands are there. Okay, yarn, and then webpack. So something like that. Lots of executable commands are there from Rails. Those commands are executed from this binary directory, otherwise bin directory. Third one is, I show you this already, configuration. So if you want to do any configuration, let us say database configuration, you can choose from here. If you want to do any routing configuration, you can able to do here. Rails is providing, whenever you are creating the Rails folder itself, necessary tools and configuration will be generated automatically. As a developer, you don't need to create any one configuration file on your own. Rails will create the necessary files and folder structure for you. So all the configuration file will come under the single folder. And next one is DB folder. The DB folder is nothing but used to create the database entered files. For example, if you are storing any background schema files, or if you are creating any migration files, all the database related files will come under this folder. And library, so if you are going to use your any Ruby library, you can able to use that. If you are writing your own Ruby scripts, or if you are using any third party Ruby libraries, you can use this folder to use that in your coding part. And then log folder. Log folder is nothing but it is used to keep your log. For example, whenever you are running your application, if the application is getting crashed, or whatever the queries that have been run, what are the emails that has been sent, like that, if you want to track your application status, you can come and verify this one. This is similar to your phone log. If you are using a mobile phone, logs will be there, right? Messages sent, received, calls received, sent, outgoing, missed calls, something like that. This log is used to track your application status. Errors, mail sent, crashes, all the updates will be available in this folder. Okay. Next one is public folder. Public means common place. So common error pages, common downloadable files, you can put it from here. For example, if you are going for any page which is not available, let us take this Facebook as an example. If you're going for any unwanted URLs or something, Facebook will show you that this page is not available. Otherwise, it will tell you the page you are looking for is not exist. Okay, so those kind of pages will be come here. So you can see that 404 error. The page you are looking for does not exist, like that. You can able to see that here. Okay, so the page you are looking for does not exist. You may see that those kind of pages in your other websites as well. Okay, those kind of common error pages are available in your public folder. Even if you are using any common files for downloads or uploads, you can use this public folder. Okay, so storage, if you want to use any third party storage, or if you want to keep any of your files, you can able to put it over here. It's an optional for storage folder. You can able to use that. Testing folder. Rails comes with testing by default. So a Rails developer can able to write the test cases on their own, or they can able to use any other testing tools as well. If you are using the test comes with Rails by default, you can use this test folder. Okay, so as of now, test related files will go here. Testing. So web application testing, all the related files will go here. Temporary files, your temporary storage like hashed pages, process IDs, okay, and then storage, all the temporary hashed pages will go here. So whenever you are repeating the same pages again and again, whenever you are loading the same pages again, so that temporary internet files, everything will get stored here, okay. Vendor file, so vendor means third party tools or softwares, for example flash player, okay. So those kind of third party tools, if you want to use that with your application, you can download and you can put it over here, okay. So these are the important folders, you can use it from your this particular Rails application. Some other files are also available. So for example this kind of configuration files which will load your JavaScript, it's a JavaScript file, configuration RU file, this will load all of your configuration file. These files cannot be editable, these are default files, you cannot touch them, you just have an idea they are having the configuration for booting up. And the important file, as I mentioned you already, is gem file. The heart of your Rails application is this gem file. So whenever you are using any Ruby gems which is already available, you can find out from here. In future, if you want to use any Ruby gem, for example MySQL, so if you want to use MySQL database, you can put it over here and you can use it. So whatever the Ruby gems means Ruby packages, I already told you. If you want to use any Ruby gems on your own, you need to mention it here and you need to use that. So without mentioning here, you cannot use any Ruby gems, okay. So that is a gem file. Next one is gem log file. So this log file is available to keep the versions of Ruby gems which are available in this particular application. For example, in this application we are using nearly these kind of gems, these kind of different kinds of gem with platform Windows 64-bit machine, and what is the Ruby version, what is the Rails version, like that it will be having all the related versions of this file. It's a logged file, you cannot edit it, Rails will create this automatically for the information purpose, okay. So a few more files are there, they are for configuration, you can simply skip that. And finally the readme file. So in this readme file you can put your own instruction, okay, how you can able to use this file. For example, if you are having any instructions for the developer, you can able to use which Ruby version you are using, what are the configuration, how to run this test case, like that you can have your own instructions in this file. It's a common instruction file, okay. Rest of the files are just configuration file, you can skip that. So like that, this default directory layout will be generated whenever you are creating your Rails application. So very important concept is, very important folder is app folder, which will be having the core folder, model, view and controller files in your application. So this directory layout is very simple to use whenever you are going for this another application or any other application. The directory layout is going to be the same. So where you can refer this kind of directory layout means, so as I mentioned you, guides.rubyonrails.org is the official website for your Rails application. So from here, whenever you are adding this kind of whenever you are reading this page, you can able to get the corresponding file folders and the purpose. So for documentation reference, you can refer it here, okay. So just refer this guides to know that things better. So if you have time while you are doing traveling or whenever you are having time, you can go to this particular guides and remember to choose the corresponding version, because getting started with Rails, so it will be having the updated latest version. You can go with the latest version and you can use that particular guides to improve your knowledge, okay. Fine. So with this, the directory layout is completed. So now it's a very lengthy process. You can see that now the application is ready to use, okay. Right now we need to run this Rails application and we need to check whether the output is coming or not. That means once you have created the Rails application, it is necessary to run your Rails application and see how the output is coming. Very important. So now I am going to run this application. So to run this application, remember you need to run the web server. So web server is nothing but it will allocate a allocate a port in the particular processor, and it will keep on listening to the port for request and responses. That is called serving the web. So whenever you are running any web applications in your local machine, the web server should be running in your local machine. If you are using it in your production, that is not needed. That means live means that is not needed. But whenever you are developing some web applications in your local machine, that should be some standard gateway to share the request and responses. See, whenever you are trying to log in into Gmail, you are making some request, right? So what is the response coming back? Your inbox is getting loaded. That is the response you are getting. So to send the corresponding request, to receive the particular response from that particular controller or whatever the code you have written, a server should be keep on running and a port number should be allocated to that. Remember, Rails is using the default port number 3000 in your local machine to keep on listening to the Rails application's request and response handling. So you may wonder, what is request, what is response? Nothing but whenever you are trying to learn something from, trying to log in into something or trying to fetch something from the internet, that is called request. Whenever you are getting the output on your browser, that is called response. So whenever you are using that Rails application in your local machine, there should be a web server that should keep on listening to the port number which you are using in your local machine. That means 3000 by default, and it will be sharing the request and responses. So whenever you want to see the output of your applications, it definitely you need to run your web server. For example, right now I am going to call the Rails server. So hereafter, whenever you are going to create any Rails application or whenever you are going to use any of the Rails specific stuff, you need to run the commands. Okay, keep in mind, always keep your command prompt open. So first get into the app, okay, Grey Campus, then Rails server. So I am running this. Rails server is the command which is used to boot the inbuilt web server that comes with Rails by default. As I already told you, Puma is the web server that comes with Rails by default. So when I run this command Rails server, you can see booting Puma. So this Puma is the inbuilt web server that will be keep on running on port number 3000 by default. You can be able to see that Rails 6.0, that is the version using, and it is starting this particular application and it is listening to the port number called 3000. Okay, localhost colon 3000 or 127.0.0.1. That is the IP address of your local machine. So how you can see the output right now? Open your browser and just give localhost colon 3000, otherwise 127.0.0.1.3000. So as I mentioned you can able to use this 3000 as the port number. Okay, so when you see this page, yeah, you are on Rails. Okay, when you see this first page, you can make sure you have installed Ruby and Rails properly and you have created the Rails app successfully and you are riding on Ruby on Rails. So your first Ruby on Rails output is coming on your page. Okay, so this is the first output you need to try. Okay, so you have learned something about installation and using Rails, right? So as an assignment of this particular introduction video, I suggest you to try Ruby on Rails installation and then up to this running your Rails application and seeing on this Rails welcome page. Up to this, you just give it a try, and for the instruction, you can refer the getting started with Rails, this particular guides. Okay, so in this guides also, you can see the same here, the page what I am explaining is available here also. You can get it from here. Okay, as a reference for your learning purpose, you can use this one. So this assignment or this offline work you can try after watching this video. Okay, anyway, let us get back to the subject. So now I have given localhost colon 3000. Okay, that is the port number Rails is using by default. You may wonder how I can use different port number to use this. 3000 is another port number. My machine is already using port number 3000. How I can use different port? So that is also possible. You just shut down your server and restart it with -p. Rails server --p. -p means that is the port number For example, let me give 4000. If you want to manually give any port number also, you can give Rails server hyphen P. P means nothing but port number 4000. So when you give that, your Puma will be listening to the port number 4000 right now. So if you are going for 3000 right now, it won't give you any response. It will give you not able to load the page. So what you need to give? You need to give just localhost colon 4000. So if you give 4000, it will load the same Ruby on Rails page right now. Remember that, okay? Whenever you want to run any output of your Ruby on Rails application, remember you need to use Rails server. Once the server is started, you can able to see the output. Otherwise, it will tell you these kind of error messages. The page you are looking for is not exist. Otherwise, it will tell you that it is not reachable. So like that it will tell you. Okay, remember that whenever you want to see the output of your Rails application, you should run your Rails server. Remember that, okay? Anyway, so this is how you can able to run your Rails server. Okay, with this we can able to create Rails application, and we can able to run our Rails application, and we can see the welcome page of this Rails application. And one more important thing I want to tell you, whenever the Puma, that web server is loading, you can see one word here. Application is starting in development mode. Development means local machine. Okay. So similar to this development, your Rails application can run on 3 different environments. So a single Rails application can run on 3 different environments. So what are the environments it can run? So 3 different kind of environment. Development mode. So development environment is nothing but the local machine you are using. Okay. Once you have installed Ruby and Rails in your machine, the machine you are using right now is called development mode. Okay. So your application can run on locally. So whenever some testers, or if you are writing the test cases for your application, now your application is running on the test mode. Okay, very important. Whenever you are running test cases, or if you are keeping your app testing, so that will be called as testing mode. When you move your application to the production stage, I mean the live server, okay, that is called production mode. So for example, when you push your application to the live, Facebook is live right now, everyone is using that. Okay, so those kind of live environment are called as production mode. So your single Rails application can run on development, production and test environments. 3 different kinds of testing environments are available in your Rails application. Okay, so we have learnt up to the running of your first Rails application in this video. Okay, so let us recall what we have learnt. I will continue the rest of the topics in the next video. So in this particular video, we have learnt to install Rails, to create the first Rails application, and we have run the Rails application, and we have seen the first Rails application page, and we have talked about the directory layout. Okay. So in next video, continuation of this video, I will talk about model view controller, MVC architecture, and then creating MVC files manually, and how to use this Rails application with simple example. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe our channel to get the new learning playlist, live updates on the tutorials and much more.